You know, if this is the kind of stuff that the US has been covering up for years, suddenly those nutball conspiracy theorists that live in their mother's basements don't seem so, well, crackpotish now, do they? Roswell suddenly gained a lot of credibility. That movie nut here with a review for Argo, the 2012 historical thriller starring Ben Affleck, Bryan Cranston, Goodman and Alan Arkin. The story deals with the 1979 hostage crisis in Iran, where 6 American diplomats escape when their embassy is being attacked and flee to a house owned by the Canadian ambassador. Realizing this, the CIA calls for Tony Mendez, an expert in getting people out of dangerous situations, to find a way to get these 6 people out of there. And so, after watching a scene from one of the Planet of the Apes movies, he decides to create a fake movie, and by doing this, being able to pass off the diplomats as members of a film crew, and enlists the help of a makeup artist and a jaded Hollywood producer to do so. The acting all around is pretty damn solid. Ben Affleck, who is someone I have a so-so relationship when it comes to his acting, is great here as the agent Tony Mendez. He feels calculating, but you definitely feel sympathetic for him, and you do get the feeling that this is a man who has determination to do his job well, and of course to get back home to see his wife and child again. Bryan Cranston as his superior, even though this may sound pretty much redundant, is great as always. He has good chemistry with Affleck. You do feel that there is sort of a friendship between the two, and that he himself is in an awkward position, always having to answer to his superiors. But of course the show stealers here are Goodman as legendary makeup artist John Chambers and Alan Arkin as the Hollywood producer. The two get the funniest lines in the whole movie, and they just eat it up. They are so much fun to watch on screen. They have a lot of energy and charisma. They play off each other very well, and they just embody all those great Hollywood stereotypes, and they run with it, and it's just a joy to watch, and they work well with Affleck. And the rest of the cast, most of them playing the various agents and of course the 6 main diplomats, all play their roles well, and you do feel the tension and fear in them as they try to get through this incredibly terrifying situation. Visually, the film has a line between a raw, rough quality that you would expect from a thriller and something more akin to a documentary, especially when they're in Iran, which helps it mix in with the actual stock footage they have of the real events and give it a very consistent feel. And very often the camera is situated right in the middle of the action, where, say for example, in the beginning of the film when the embassy is besieged and you're right there with the crowds, it creates a lot of intensity, and I give props to Affleck for really wanting to get in there and really project that. And of course in a thriller it helps that it's tightly edited. In fact, the editing is a lot like another thriller that I really enjoy, 1 Hour Photo, where it's razor sharp, it's constantly tense. Even during these scenes in Hollywood, which are the comedic moment of the movie, they don't feel jarring, and it doesn't ignore what's going on in Iran. It regularly cuts back, so you at least have all the humor in Hollywood, but it's underscored by all the tension and fear over in Iran. And the score by Alexandre Desplat is pretty good. Desplat is someone who I have a so-so relationship, sort of like with Mark Isham, where he'll either do a really good piece of music or just something really mediocre. His score is very tense, builds a lot of tension. He incorporates Iranian instruments, which aside from fitting with the predominant location of the film, also help create an alien and unsettling feeling to a lot of scenes. And there are a couple of times where he uses a choir, and it gives a strange, haunting, unsettling quality to the film. And now we come to the final thing, which is the script. Despite being based on an actual historical event which was declassified not that long ago, the movie doesn't feel like some sort of pretentious history lesson. It's very upfront with you about what's going on. It's not afraid to be visceral or uncouth. And it never portrays any one side as in the right. It doesn't portray the Americans as these brilliant, heroic people. It does show that they were very manipulative and backstabbing, and even in situations where they have to get some of their own out, they're not above doing some pretty underhanded things. By that same token, the Iranians are not shown as completely innocent, misunderstood people. These are people who have been pushed around by the higher-ups in society, and now all that anger has just exploded, and they are effectively raged animals that will tear down anything that reminds them of America or the people who supported the tyrannical Shah. And this type of characterization even extends to the whole Hollywood thing, where Goodman and Arkin make a lot of fun about the fact that people in Hollywood are pretty backstabbing, and there's a nice bit of parallel between them and the actual agencies, which is a good bit of smart writing. And speaking of smart writing, the dialogue is really sharp, really to the point, and does make you feel like these are real people, not just marionettes in a historical setting. And part of the reason is that, as mentioned before, it mixes it up with some humor here and there, with John and Alan getting some great lines which don't feel out of place or forced. It would be very easy for a thriller to have scenes that are meant to be funny that just wouldn't feel right, but here it's sort of darkly humorous, and it fits completely with the dark tone of the film. Did I have any problems with the film? Well, not really. The film is extremely well constructed. Affleck is each time becoming a better and better director. He knows what he wants, he knows how to get there, and he doesn't try to polish it up too much or do anything overly fancy. He just says, here's the story, let's get going. He's very to the point, and at the beginning of the film, after a brief sequence where we see the history of Iran told through storyboards, which fits the whole fake movie aspect very well, he instantly throws us into the siege of the American embassy, getting us into the action right away and getting the story started just right like that. It would have been really easy for him to just do a whole maybe 10-minute history lesson, or just a lot of dry, calm drama to try and make the contrast more sharp, but I admire the fact that he just got on with telling a story. Apart from that, the only other issues I have with the film, which are really more nitpicks, is that I sort of wish that perhaps the bit where the agents and Affleck's character Mendes actually talking about the different ideas maybe had gone on a bit longer. Maybe we should have seen more of Mendes trying to figure out different ideas on his own before switching on the television and seeing that scene from one of the Planet of the Apes movies that causes him to get the idea of a fake movie. To me, it came a little too quick, but it's not a huge deal. And really, that's my only honest complaint with the film. And so, I must give Argo a high silver star. It's a very well-made thriller. It's probably one of the best movies of the year, and there's just really nothing wrong with it, and Goodman and Arkin just make this movie.